Hey, my name is Jochem, and this is the Service Design Show episode 245.
1 year ago, we made a bold prediction on this show that journey management would become 10 times more normal by now. Did we actually hit that mark? Or are you still getting stuck on the same old objections from your stakeholders? We don't have the data, it's too expensive, or it's just another tool. Today, we are not just grading our past predictions, we are playing Objection Bingo to give you the arguments you need to overcome those blockers and finally scale journey management in your organization. Hi, if you're new here, welcome to the Service Design Show, where we invite the brightest minds in our field and explore what is truly needed to design great services that resonate with people, push businesses forward, and honor our planet. Today, we are joined by Jochem van de Veer, the CEO and co-founder of TheyDo. TheyDo is not just a long-time partner of this show, they are actively shaping the way businesses use journeys to drive outcomes. We have made somewhat of a tradition to come together, check our score on last year's predictions, and of course, forecast what's coming next. Jochem has his finger on the pulse of this industry, not just through his own business, but through his podcast, where he dives deep into the reality of journey management. So for us, he's the perfect person to ask the hard questions or even the annoying ones. So in today's conversation, you're going to learn about how to prove that journey management isn't just another tool, but a critical decision-making layer. Why finding a $10 million problem is the secret to overcoming budget objections. How we are finally shifting away from pure efficiency cuts and back towards innovation. Why the future of AI is not chat, but agents working while you sleep. And finally, why Jochem predicts journey management adoption will grow twice as fast in 2026. My personal highlight definitely was the round of Objection Bingo that we played right in the middle of the episode. I think we have all felt that sinking feeling when a stakeholder says a project is too expensive. But Jochem gives us a brilliant way to flip that script. It turns a defensive conversation about cost into a proactive conversation about value, and it's a tactic I think you can use immediately. So whether you are a pioneer in your organization or already leading a growing team, this conversation offers the practical armor you need for your next budget meeting. There's a lot of ground to cover in this one, from the state of our industry today to the new roles emerging in 2026. Make sure to stick around till the very end, because I will be back to share my closing reflections and help you connect the dots from your own work. Get your bingo cards ready and let's dive in. I am your host, Mark Fontijn, and you are listening to the Service Design Show. Welcome back to the show, Jochem.
Thank you for having me again. Happy New Year, Mark.
Happy New Year. It's becoming a tradition doing one of the first episodes of the year with you, and it's always a pleasure. Today we have a plan, and the plan is to revisit our predictions from last year, from 2025. Very curious if we managed to sort of predict what was going to happen this year or previous year. We have a midsection which is going to be a lot of fun, because we're going to do Objection Bingo. You'll hear some of the most common objections we hear around journey management and the implementation and scaling of journey management. And last but not least, of course, we have to make new predictions for this year that we can revisit next year as well. That's the plan. Did I forget anything, Jochem?
Well, sounds like a whole plan for a whole hour, so let's go.
Let's go. Okay. I don't know if you checked your previous episodes, but we who are listening, of course, already did. It was episode 218 in January 2025, and you said a few things. And I want to start with the first one, cheating on my notes here. You said you were excited for a world by the end of 2025 where we could simply ask our journeys why, and especially the people who are maybe not in the service design space. How far did we get on that prediction?
Well, I think people who have been following TheyDo know that we actually made that possible. But I think the more interesting question is not like, can we or can we not ask why? I mean, if we think about journeys, customer journeys, the journey framework, the end-to-end experience as like a set of data that gives a certain context to understanding what the customer is going through, but also how we as a business show up. What are the insights we're having? How is our business performing in terms of our KPIs that we say are important to understand those experiences? Like, asking questions about that data is what people have done for ages, right? But asking like, hey, why are we seeing a lot of people calling our contact center with all these problems that we can't really solve for them? We have a lot of low value calls. Like, why is that happening? That answer used to be like a data science problem, and you would spin up a project and you would get people to answer that question. And today, you literally can query your entire framework and get to an answer. Now, is it a root cause analysis is really like spot on? That depends on the data. But asking the question, getting a result, and letting AI skim the entire context is possible. So I guess like, yes, the prediction is becoming true.
Okay, yeah, so it's coming true from a maybe technological perspective that if you have the right data, you can actually ask the question and get some meaningful clues and insights. Are you also seeing, what are you seeing around the fact that, around the adoption? So yes, the technology starts to enable us to do this, but people are also adopting this.
The short answer, yes. And the interesting part of adoption is that it reveals problematic data, right? What I've seen, I mean, this is true for probably our customers that are using TheyDo, but for anyone who's implementing journey management, is that it can get out of hand pretty quickly, right? You get like a lot of teams who are doing their work and bringing these journeys to life, and there's no like structure in place, and it's free for all. It's not even like there's no governance or, what have you.
Anarchy, journey anarchy.
Right. That's what we're seeing in some organizations. Most have some structure, like total anarchy is obviously not what is happening. I mean, that was happening on the whiteboards. I mean, that's the whole point of not being able to run a business on a whiteboard. But what we're seeing is that if you have like a data model, if you have that journey model that really helps you understand like the end-to-end customer experience, the next question becomes like, in there, what is valid? Like, what is real? What should we take into account and what shouldn't we? So there's much more scrutiny going on right now on, hey, this is like an initial draft of a journey, like based on like a couple of customer interviews. But this one is actually like also backed by our data analysis on our support tickets. This is also backed by the vast amount of data we've crunched on all the incoming calls, right? So there's a difference between what is valid and what is actually like in the beginning. So if you want to answer a question, the first question to answer is like, what is the anarchy that we have created inside our journey frameworks, inside our journey management approaches, inside our data? And that is actually what's being exposed. So in terms of adoption, the first thing we're seeing is like, oh, we have a lot of like not validated data, a lot of data that doesn't make sense, a lot of outdated data. So we better clean that up first. So that's what's actually happening in a lot of organizations, so that the answers you're going to get, the analysis you're doing, the documentation you're creating, whether you're doing an objective business case, or you're actually just interested in figuring out what the new pain points are on the last 30 days, that still needs to be based on data that you trust. And if you haven't properly set up your journeys, and if the data that's going in there is not validated or coming from different parts, well, then it's crap in and crap out. So adoption is twofold. One, cleaning up. That's the first step. And then second, then there is the next leg, which is like, okay, now we can actually like query and answer the questions that we're having.
What are you seeing in regards to who is asking the why question at the moment?
Yeah, so again, like there's so many why questions, right? Why is churn up? Like that's a huge question.
Yeah.
And there's probably not like one answer. It's like, oh, this is broken. We need to fix it. Ta-da! Like I wish it was true. So uncovering that is a lot more difficult. So business leaders are asking those questions, but then the teams are asking more specific questions. Oh, is there more friction today than there was before? Oh, we're about to, or like, let me give an example. Like big airlines saw a decline in baggage booking. Okay, what's happening? What's going on? Turned out there's a team, ancillary team, that is focused on baggage booking, and they saw like their revenue drop and less bags being booked. But they are in the step after people have bought their ticket before they go on a flight. But they didn't know there was another team that launched a new premium offering inside the core booking flow. So inside the core booking flow, there was like a new premium for 30 euros or so. You could add like that package and it will get an additional bag. So higher up in the organization, if you look at the data, there wasn't a problem on baggage booking. There was even more baggages being booked, which was great. But for that specific team that was looking at their part of the equation, it was a big problem. So they're asking like, why is it down? What's going on? Why? But the answer was, well, because there was another team that launched a promo. So there wasn't even a problem, right? So it depends on which team is asking what. But that question, like, why is that, like, is answered on a higher level, but it's based on the same data. So, and I think this is fascinating because typically those teams don't talk. Maybe they meet and they have an insight, but now that they can see like the end-to-end booking flow and then their part of the equation in the context of that, it was very easy to follow the data and say, hey, because this happened there downstream or upstream in the customer experience, we don't have a problem, and we should talk to that team like what we are going to do moving forward.
Yeah, so it would be so cool to use to literally have a conversation with your, I don't know, it's not even your journey, it's almost your organizational model, where you ask like, okay, I'm seeing that baggage bookings are down, like what's going on? And that the model would tell you, hey, there is a team working on this and that was a change. Or it tells you, we don't know, but we're seeing some stuff going on with whatever, right? It's, yeah.
What you're saying is correct, right? You want to get the signal, you want to get directionally into the place where probably the
something has changed
or the opportunity is. So you can like deep dive and say like, okay, now we're applying our human judgment, given the context of our business, our customers, like, what does this mean for us? Because AI is there, it doesn't have an opinion. So if you would ask the question like, why is baggage booking down? Oh yeah, it's a big problem. It will start to find reasons, right? If it sees a big pain point that was spiking, then that is like, oh, there is a big pain point, so it might have something to do with that. But if you have the whole context, it can say something like, no, it was probably that bag booking. You want to check it out. And then you realize it was. So finding the signal to then answer the why. I think that's the stage we're in. Like we can't just deploy it on all our data and say like why, and then it will have the root cause.
The ultimate answer.
Everything.
Yeah. Well, it gives you clues, right? You said it gives you direction, and that is already a huge benefit. Okay. That was a prediction. Are we able to ask the why question? The answer is yes, we can. The asterisk there, or the caveat, is the answer will just be as good as the data that you have put in, as always.
We could have predicted that, I guess. This is not rocket science, right?
So I'll challenge you for better predictions at the end of this episode. Okay. The other thing you predicted was that you hope journey models would be 10 times more normal. One, can you sort of go back in time and elaborate on what you meant with that? And of course, two, how did we do on that prediction?
Yeah, I'm interested in how I can answer that the best way. So from our data, like in terms of like the amount of journey frameworks that I'm seeing, like we did not 10x that this year, but it's not that far off.
But what's the metric?
Yeah, so journey frameworks, right? Multiple customer journeys together, each holding a part of the customer experience. But when put together in a framework, like that's a model of reality, right? I mean, an abstract. So if we call a journey data model that way, like some organizations have one, most enterprise organizations have multiple, and they have different constellations to really understand like specific parts of the experience, specific parts of their business. So each of those frameworks say more than 5 journeys, just by simplifying it a little bit for people listening. Like 10x more, we haven't seen that, but 6x we have. So, but that's based on the data I have from our customers. But I think like it's more normal, and I'm also seeing that people are actively building those. I mean, some call them the journey atlas, some call them journey framework, but we're moving from journey mapping to management. That was like data infused journey maps. And now we're moving into like, no, they're like near real time. There's data in, there's data out, there's the connectivity with the other systems. So it becomes more of a data model that is like continuously being monitored and creating like this way of finding new opportunities for you.
This has always been the ultimate dream of anyone who's listening to the Service Design Show for a while, having these rich, live, not even documents, but sort of frameworks. I would also encourage everybody to go back maybe to our very first conversation, could have been 2022, 23, and like how the language in our field has already shifted. Like I'm almost not hearing anyone talk anymore about journey mapping. Like journey mapping has evolved into journey management so quickly in the last 2 years that already signals a very strong shift towards this getting more normalized. Do you see that as well?
Yes. And at the same time, journey mapping is like, we sometimes feel like we've over-rotated on like, oh, journey management. But the practice of mapping your data, I mean, back in the days, it was like literally mapping a bunch of Post-its based on the research you did. Then it became like, okay, digital exercises and maybe some data backing. And now it's like AI and humans working together. But it's still the same. It's like you're mapping your data to a certain context. So there's nothing wrong with journey mapping, but because it's rooted in the idea of like we're making wall art, it is something that we should avoid. But if you think about journey mapping as the process of using data, using AI, using your judgment to create that context, and really inquiring on like what is the experience that people are having when they're interacting with our business, when they're, I don't know, identifying themselves to get a new loan for buying a car, right? What is that experience like? So mapping that out is great, but the process of doing that, you do it once and then you want to monitor it and then you want to manage that journey and I want to use the data and continue. So that's where the language has shifted.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm very excited that is actually happening.
It is happening. And maybe it was still a question 3 years ago, but I don't think anyone listening to this questions that shift anymore. And your comment about wall art, it's, I don't think people were explicitly thinking about that, but it was just a byproduct or the limitation of the tools that we had at hand back then. Like there was no easy way to keep it alive, like to keep it updated, to keep it data driven. So it always eventually ended up like a one-off initiative or one-off artifact. It became an artifact rather than what is it today? A model, a process, a framework?
Yeah, I mean, people call it living documents, which is kind of like funny. I don't know if that's like. I prefer it's a data model, but that's also like, for some organizations, very useful to talk about. For others, it's a journey atlas with like living documents, and that's fine. Like if we standardize on a couple of things, great. If other organizations have their own language, but they mean the same, it's great. As long as we don't think like nice picture hanging on the wall we did once back in the days, and it's like the day we put it on the wall, it was inaccurate.
I think I made a video years ago where I sort of tested the idea of a journey being like your customer experience dashboard, which helps you to drive decisions. I don't know. Maybe that idea still holds some value.
It does, yeah. You're more of an innovator than one might think.
Well, that's one of the predictions that maybe has come true from all of the. As long as you make enough predictions, some of them will come true. Okay, cool. So asking why are journeys getting more normalized? Yes, cool. But now I want to pivot with you into sort of the midsection of our conversation today. We're still not at the 10x, but like you said, we're maybe at 6x, which begs the question, what is hindering more or the more accelerated adoption? I know you hear a lot of roadblocks and objections every day. I do as well. I talk to people who are thinking about implementing journey management, and for whatever reason, they fail to do so or they fail to scale it. So we thought it might be interesting to do objection bingo and go over some of the most common ones. Jochem, I don't know. Do you have one? Like, if I would ask you for the most common objection that you have heard in the last 12 months, which one would you pick?
We don't have all the data. I would pick that one. And I mean, it's not necessarily an objection of saying like, oh, and therefore we're not doing anything. But what I'm seeing, especially in service design and customer experience teams, they are looking at like, oh, hang on a minute, like we need the performance data. We need to be able to have the behavioral analytics. We need to be da. So we want to bring all that data in, right? First and foremost, we don't own it. There's other teams responsible for capturing it, measuring and analyzing it. And second of all, like the backlogs of our IT teams or like our data teams, to even like build the data pipeline we need. Yeah, that's filled for a couple of months. And then what happens is like, that sounds like a big challenge. So people do nothing instead of taking a next step, right? And I think this is the most common one. And obviously, like we're helping them problem solve and take steps and make it not too big, but like take the next step. But this is a very common objection. Once you see what's possible, I literally had this conversation with a team at like a large bank, and they were like, oh, it can do that. Like talking about like analyzing your entire framework, combining your metrics, your VOC data and your research data, and really understanding like what is the scope of the problem. And instantly they went in terms of opportunity to like saying no, like this is huge. Like, oh yeah, we know we can't get resources for the next 6 months. And probably that's true, right? They might have had another conversation with another software vendor last month and they were held aback. But then because it's so big, they do nothing. And then you talk to them again 6 months later and have the same conversation because the backlog just moved 6 months again. So that's the biggest objection I'm seeing. And in the cases where teams say, okay, it is a problem, let's work it, this is what we can do, and this is how we're gonna like step by step get there, those are great. But the ones that are like, no, this is too big, my organization, the next question becomes like, do you really want to do this? Like, why are you coming to journey management? Like, because everyone else is doing it? And then you have an interesting conversation. And that's definitely something that I'm seeing. So we don't have the data is the most common one and also the easiest one to overcome. But making it too big is definitely something that service design or our experience design teams can do.
I can imagine that, especially when you start investigating tools like TheyDo, which are super powerful, flexible, give you a lot of control and insights. There are like, it almost teases that you need to use all those features from the get-go, right? Because if you're not, like, we're paying for all those features, we should use them, and if we are not able to use them, then let's not do it all. How do you advise people in those situations? Of course, we will get back to the question probably every time, like, why are you even doing this? So let's pause that for a second. But like, is there something that you have found that gets them over this initial hump?
Typically, why they're doing this is a bigger problem in the organization, right? They've seen the light and they know that this is the right way to bring different teams together. But that's more like on the workflow, on the standardization internally. What is more interesting is then taking them onto the future and say, okay, we've done all the work. You have the data in here, right? You have these journeys. Like, so what? What are you going to do with that? And I mean, this ties into another objection that we're hearing a lot. But the so what is a very interesting topic, because sometimes teams don't know. It's like, yeah, then we have better understanding of our customer experience, or we can have better insight quality. Like, all our insights are 30 days or younger, and they have data back to it. So like, yeah, so what? Yeah, then we know. Like, it's so fragmented. It's across all our different systems. Yeah, but so what? And what you will see is that sometimes they don't have an answer. And it's like, what are you working on today? Oh, we're improving the onboarding workshop. Or like, we have like 15 KYC journeys from all these different software solutions. We're marrying that into our simple design system, and we want to make that a standard building block for all the services that we have. Very typical in a retail bank. Okay, so how's that going? Yeah, and then you unravel the problems behind it. And you're like, okay, which decisions are hard to make? Yeah, we don't know if we should do this first, or we don't know if we should actually prioritize that. Okay, well, what data do you need? And all of a sudden, you have a conversation about the problem they're working on, the projects they're working on, the data they don't have, which, having the journey context in the context of like getting a loan or getting a mortgage and then identifying yourself, is all of a sudden very logical to have. Like, oh yeah, we have this survey there, and we're doing research here, and we have market data. Like, okay, how can we bring all of that together? And the first answer is, oh, let's import it. The second is like, can we tool it up? And the third one is, how do we measure that? Oh, that team cares about the the conversion rate of people even going through it. That team has like, so, and the risk team has this KPI. Okay, how can we at least like connect with them? Yeah, we need that. Right. And all of a sudden you've shifted from like, oh, it's too complex, and well, we're just focused on the part we can influence, which is building it out, having an understanding, to, okay, and then we have it, we can actually use it.
Yeah.
And that is the thinking step that a lot of organizations are making, and then it becomes much more easy.
Yeah. So the actual thinking, it's maybe a bit silly that we talk about this, but thinking about the actual usage part, utility, is crucial, because it's not a bucket that you just fill with water and then look at the bucket, right? That's not the whole purpose. Like, you're doing this because, I don't know, you want to water your plants, and in like you said, with your journeys, you might want to improve decision making, the speed that you're making less decisions that turn out to be the wrong ones, for instance, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is that it could also be that it leads to something you don't know yet. So I'll give an example. Is a lot of organizations can differentiate on the customer experience, right? They're in a commoditized market. Every product does the same. Every service looks the same. But it's the way it's been delivered, handled, and customers feel that they are part of something that really understands them, is a differentiator. Okay, great. So putting this in place will allow you to say, where can we differentiate on experience? Which before used to be like, anyone's guess, and we need to consult like 20 different tools, and we build a nice PowerPoint and we believe it, yes or no. But now we can bake it into data. So it can also lead to something that we don't know yet, which is, where are those opportunities to do that? Versus like, here's my business problem, I want to solve it. But you need to be intentional about it.
Yeah. Then again, what you just said, I would summarize this as, it helps you to make better decisions. Whether that's with regards to where to allocate your resources, where to allocate your time, where to allocate your people. If you're not using it as a decision-making tool, then why are you doing it in the first place?
Yeah, then you become a bucket filler, a water bucket filler. You're just like, you have a bucket, you have a lot of these cups, which you filled already in the organization. Great job, kudos to you. And now you're going to put a big bucket in place and say, I'm going to take all the cups and put it in a big bucket. But that's my job.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a nice metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing busy work. And then the next person comes like, oh, let's put it in the ocean. And we put all the water in the ocean and we start from from zero.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people do it because either they've seen other people have a shiny bucket and they want a bucket as well. Or, I don't know, your boss or your manager said that we need a bucket, right?
Yeah. So the right question to ask is if you see someone filling the bucket, it's like, what are you going to do with all that water?
Yeah.
And if they have a great answer, like, oh, that sounds smart. Let me also, do that.
Contribute. Okay, nice. I feel we already tackled 2 objections. The other one had to do with complexity. But I want to dig into a different one that I hear a lot, and you probably as well, being a SaaS provider, is people tell me that, okay, this is just another tool. Or at least they tell me that the people around them tell that, right? We already have, I don't know, fill in your favorite online whiteboarding tool, or we have Excel or Google Sheets. And now, here you go, you're proposing to implement or buy another journey management software. Do we really need that? Do you get that one as well? Or are people who reach out to you already past that stage?
If you reach out to us and your question is why another tool, like, what are you doing? So that's not happening. But what is happening is that there's teams that want to do this, that understand why it's important and how it can actually like move the needle across different teams to make better decisions, to your point. But then as you go higher up in the organization, they go like, oh, we have something like an SAP Signavio. Doesn't do it? Oh, Salesforce has a journey builder. Like, journey management, as much as we like it, is a growing capability, right? Now, in the world of AI, like having context, that is the keyword, right? We're going to talk about predictions in a second, but like having the right context for your enterprise agents, for your rack-based search, right, is essential. But you need to give it that context. And we can't just rely on 50 different tools, all providing a piece, and then we put like a layer on top and say like, let me ask a question. There is a contextualization that needs to happen before it actually can make sense. So that's what we're seeing. Like, you have a lot of tools, but what is the place where you build the context from those different tools? And if your answer is like, we're doing it on a digital whiteboard, great. Then you go and do that there. Like, it gets very messy and very fast. So you want to have something else, right? And then you go into your tool stack. Where can we do it? And you realize there's not really something that does it horizontally, right? There's all these like vertical solutions that you have.
But what is a vertical solution in this case?
So customer support tool. Like, it collects all the customer support tickets, it analyzes them, and it gives you feedback. But it's not connected to the research you're doing. It's not connected to the incoming calls. Sometimes it is, but most times it isn't. It's not connected to all the surveys that you're sending, right? It's not connected to the feedback widgets, which your team has so proudly developed, custom built, and has across the app a different UI for the web. But it's all different buckets of data. It's not connected. And then you have your performance side of the house where you measure the business KPIs. It's not connected. So there is nothing horizontally that connects all of that. And I think that's the layer that a lot of organizations are now building. And journey management, journey context, is that layer that people can bring into the organization. So it's not just another tool. It's shaping the context for decision-making, for your other tools to use their agents to make sense of the data. So, and that is the step that most organizations are taking when they're pitching it into executives and say, no, it's not another tool. Yeah, sure, it's another software solution we need to put in. But we're an enterprise organization. It's pretty normal. But we need something that contextualizes it. And we don't have anything that does it.
You want to move the conversation away from the tool aspect because you can debate whether or not doing something on the back of a napkin is the way to go versus like having a more advanced tool that is more efficient, but you actually want to shift the conversation towards the capability gap and the problem that creates inside the organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a big, it is correct, but there's a big gap between the people using the tool.
Exactly.
Like mapping it out, analyzing the data, building the frameworks, getting opportunities in place, like aligning that with the roadmaps that we're having, like giving recommendations to what needs to happen, tracking the impact. Like those are people using the tools day to day. They need to have great tools. They need to have like capabilities that can work and are easy to use and are lovely to use and they want to use. But then you go into the organization, like, do you think like you're a senior vice president of reseller distribution cares about how lovely you think the tool is? No. They want to see impact, right? Can we cut our costs with 100 million this year? Like, can we improve the service experience so we increase loyalty and ultimately sell more cars? Those are the questions on their mind. There's a huge gap between you having great tools to do your work and them getting the value from all the great work that you and your teams are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the gap we're trying to fill. And sometimes you're speaking to one and sometimes you're speaking to another.
Yeah, I recognize this as well. And the challenge is that, like you said, the people who are in the trenches doing the work every day, they feel the pain of not having tools that are optimized to do this work. It's slower, right. It's more tedious, it's more error prone. Like they see the potential of having tools that are more aligned with their work. But like you said, nobody who's not using the tools will care about your pains. So you shouldn't be talking about your pains. You should be talking about their pains. And
customer centricity 101.
It is, right? It is. Yeah. And that's interesting. Let's move on to the next objection, which is related to this. And that is the objection that, journey management, including the tooling, is just so expensive. We're not going to do this. Because at some point, you're going to ask somebody for resources or budget to, in this very specific case, implement a new tool that's going to make your life easier. And then you're going to hear, but it's so expensive.
Yes. And then the question is, expensive is relative, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing to realize. But the second thing is that it sounds, when teams say this, when people say this, like it sounds that they haven't been able to communicate the value of what they want to do with it. And it typically is because they are like, it helps us work faster and better and easier and whatever. And then the CFO looks and says, you have something similar, use that, please. Done. You can't. But if you take it around and say, hey, if we're going to use this, we'll be able to achieve XYZ faster. Or we'll be able to achieve XYZ, period. Like without it, we can't. Like, and the consequence of not getting there is costing us millions, or is preventing us from focusing on that other thing that you want us to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get it in place. We got to get going, and we want to do it now. And that's a different discussion. But so we help teams and we coaches. I mean, this is the learning that we had as well. Like 2-3 years ago, we were selling features. Like, journey management, yes, the next best thing since sliced bread. Like, here's all the bells and whistles. Like, so what? Yeah, you're right. So what? So we need to be better at helping people who think it's expensive communicate the benefits of a solution. And if you can, generate 20 million in revenue in the next quarter by selling more cars because you figured out the right problem to solve, and the cost of solving that problem, finding it, was like a fraction of that. Mm-hmm. Well, that's ROI, right? Yeah. We always talk about ROI, but like that's the real ROI. Or if we're going to do this, we can make sure that we cut half of our budget for fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
And the investment is just 10% of that. Okay, great.
I used to run a course called Selling Service Design with Confidence. And one of the assignments there was to make an overview of the costs and the benefits. Like, it's super easy for people to make a list of the costs. Like, they are super tangible. You see them, everybody looks at the cost. But if you don't do the other part of the equation as well, like you're already like not 1-0 behind, you're like 5-0 behind. You have to even make educated guesses about the potential impact. Yes. I think that's where a lot of people struggle, that they are afraid. Like, the cost is sort of set in stone. It's fixed. You know the sticker price. The benefits are hypothetical. Like we hope to save 10 million and we hope to add 20 million to generated revenue. And I think that's where people get uncomfortable on the benefit side and therefore, I don't know, back off. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, the trick there is also to not make it that big, right? If you do not feel comfortable saying like, we're going to save 10 million this year by doing it, well, what are you comfortable with? Like, what is the plan to get there? And a plan is always the plan, right? The map is not the territory, to stay in service design lingo today, but you got to have a direction. You got to have an assumption, and then you're going to test it out and you're going to validate it. And you're going to bring the risks and say, hey, if we invest, say, 150,000 euros in terms of tool, and we're investing 150,000 euros in terms of freeing up people's time to make sure that we can do the proper data analysis and support our teams. Okay, 300K worth investment for the next year. Great. Our ambition is to remove a lot of inefficiencies in our sales process, right? A lot of OEMs have this problem. There's like all these different reseller motions, all these different direct selling motions. Like it's a mess. So our job is to find those frictions, get them on the agenda of the people that own that, make sure that we resolve them, and we have them say, hey, you saved us X, you saved us Y, and together that will add up to 10 million. Okay, great. If we do 8 million at the end of the year, we're still wildly successful. But having that plan and creating milestones against it and making sure we're on track, or if someone says midway, like, okay, you're doing great work, it's fantastic, but we're going right, that can also happen. But like you got to have a starting assumption and a plan to get there and mitigate the risk. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? We spend 300K and we know a lot more about our customers and we have a list of recommendations we can take the next year.
Like you said at the start, the word expensive is very, very relative. If the problem that you're trying to address by implementing this isn't big enough, sure. Like, of course, it's going to be expensive. You need to find a problem that is big enough to justify. It's not a gamble, but it's you're placing a bet, right? And if it's contributing to a $10 million bet, like then suddenly the equation becomes quite different. And somebody probably who's holding the budgets is going to make that calculation in their head, like, okay, if this works out, the upside is this. If it doesn't work out, right? You have to find a bigger problem. That's basically the message.
Yeah. But there's two types of ways that I'm seeing this play out. You have the organizations that are bought into, okay, to be customer centric, we need to create those shared contexts across teams. We need to standardize this. We want to work more efficient. There's a real notion of organizing around the customer journey. Great. Then it's like an organizational problem you're solving. And then standardizing, setting things up, creating a better system might be great. But we should not forget that if that's not what you're asked to do, it's an uphill battle. Then it's better to say, like, who has a $10 million problem that we can start impacting? And let's attach it to that. And I think, like, you got to be understanding in the context of your organization, what is the lay of the land?
And most people will not yet be in an organization that is already fully adopting a customer-centric mindset. Okay, I think we've touched upon 4 common objections. I'll let you do the honors of having a wild card. Like, is there a last one that you want to throw in here?
Yeah, we should talk about AI, I guess, because there's so much going on right now. And what I'm seeing is that because there is so much going on, and people naively think like we can just put AI on top of all the data and all the systems we have and we'll get perfect answers, generalizing here, that is definitely a concern that's coming up. Like, hey, we are a Google shop, like big pharma. I was saying this the other day. We're a Google shop, right? We have like all our CRM nodes, all our database, like everything is like running on Google. And now we have like enterprise-wide search on top of that, right? And some basic agent capabilities. Like, why do we need this? So, and this is like not coming from like the top, but it's like the people using it. So, okay, well, let's have a test. And then you go into, okay, what are the questions you're currently having and how can we answer that? And then you realize quickly that just putting it on top of all data is not going to get you anywhere. You need to bring certain parts of your data together in a context and then be able to answer all those questions. But it's very obvious that AI will continue to be more intelligent, be able to handle more complicated queries, be able to handle more complex systems. I mean, the context windows are growing. Everything becomes easier over time. The cost is coming down. So yeah, maybe at some point we can just put AI on top of all the internal systems and it's fine. But where we are today, other than search, right? RAG-based search, getting to a good answer based on like a huge data set is really, really hard to put in practice because unstructured data will have a lot, but we first need to put it into some structure for it to be analyzed correctly. And I think that is an objection that I'm seeing is that, yes, sure, we have tools, we have all our AI, we have some of our systems connected to it. Wouldn't that be enough?
I understand the temptation that when you sort of think we have this bucket of water and now we have this magical system where we can just ask a question and it will find the correct, it will synthesize the correct knowledge because it's not just information, it's actually wisdom and knowledge that you're looking for. Like I say, we're not there yet. And the context that you're referring to in this case is the journey.
Yeah, so the customer context, right? It's like,
sure.
Let's say you have, you get low value calls and are all related to the debit card. Okay, easiest to say like, oh, what's going on with debit cards? Like, please let me know. But what you get might be a good, correct direction answer. But what you want to find out perhaps is, hey, only the segment of customers that have became our customer in the last 6 months seem to be complaining about this. Oh, all of a sudden that subset of data becomes more important. Oh, it seems like people who've had the onboarding experience when they went in store versus like the ones that just bought the card online seem to have that experience. So what I'm seeing is that you could like start to analyze all the data and use like a generic AI solution to get there. But if you have better understanding of like different experiences for different segments of your customers, it will be very easy to understand precisely what the problem is, compare and contrast, and then, like you said, like have that signal to do further digging. But having that context in place will get you a much more accurate answer than just a generic answer like there's problems in the cards business and here's like the top 10.
Yeah.
And this is the search question, right? I mean, just searching, finding, answering questions. I mean, that's the obvious one that everyone is doing. But the next thing is where we're all skating to, right? Where we all expect the puck to be, is that we are building a system of agents where a lot of the jobs to be done from people in service design, customer experience can be done better by AI so that we can do the work that we're destined to, right? Creative problem solving, connecting empathetically with people to really get into the minds of our customers. What drives them? Why is this market shift going on? But all the road work can be done by AI. But you don't want to do that by just going into a system, ask that question over and over and over again. No, you want to build some intelligent agents that can do all that work for you, specific to your business, specific to your needs, specific to the part of the company that you work in. From anomaly detection to generating your monthly report that you are typically like asked to share out. Like that takes a lot of our time. But if we can have a system and we can have a couple of agents that work for us, like all we have to do is validate and inspect and see if it's correct and, do the finishing touch and then go out. But that's the step that we're going to. And if we're not intentional about having something specific to customer experience, it becomes very generic. So that's what I'm seeing. And I mean, this is a deeper question on where this is going. But that is why you can't just put AI on top of your internal systems for everything else than just searching and finding.
Well, you can, but don't expect the answers to have any value or to be varied. Yeah.
And you will get some value from it, no doubt, and
sure.
some like generative insight into what's going on, but it's
okay, Jochem.
not structured.
You mentioned AI agents already, and you also mentioned that a year ago. So maybe this is a good moment to segue into our final chapter of this episode, and that is some predictions for 2026. Let's start with those agents and that AI movement. What do you think will have happened at the end of this year that we don't have yet?
Remind me, what did I say last year? I think I was too optimistic, right? We'll switch from like ask-based queries to like agents, something like that.
I don't know the exact details, but the context was what you just said, that we will have agents in the background working for us, doing stuff related to journeys.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And a lot of SaaS AI teams already doing this, but at the enterprise it's a different story, right? Highly regulated, a lot of scrutiny, many legacy systems that are not yet even connected. So the prediction, I think, still stands because it just didn't materialize this year. We're seeing the RAG-based search in many organizations now being the norm. We're seeing like general LLM use being the norm, like every desk worker has access to one or multiple, but they're like generic. And what we're still about to witness at the enterprise, and my prediction for the next year is this is the year that's going to happen, is actually that agents are becoming parts of our team, are becoming parts of the work that we're doing.
What does it mean in your context? So like one small thing that you hope will have happened at the end of the year in this regard.
So there are multiple agents. Let's take a customer journey, right? Let's take the example of the airline, right? There's a general booking experience that people go through. Now, to understand what's changing, we need to monitor that. And there's all these like small variations from like, oh, I'm adding that 30 euro promotion, or I'm like booking my bag in the ancillary team. So there's a lot of teams that are working on that booking journey in different parts, and they're collecting data, and the customer experience is changing. We're getting feedback, we're doing research. So it's a lot. So what I'm seeing with agents, to give a very specific example, is that we have an anomaly detection agent that goes through all the data that's being created.
A business analyst.
Yeah, no, specifically for this, like if there are, and you're creating like a procedure for it. Say like if there's more than 200 pain related feedback points coming in this week, let this team know, create an opportunity, and make sure that we're actually scoring it on these and these criteria. Okay, we try it out, it works. Okay, and then it runs. The next one is, okay, every week I want to get a report on my biggest movers based on the solutions that we've all shipped. So these kind of questions that are recurring, we can let AI do. So those are the first types of agents we're seeing. And what I'm literally seeing is like, in that context, they get to work. The second part of it is that an enterprise organization, is not going to be journey management that does all the work in the enterprise. They have different tools. They have their financial planning systems. They have their processes. They have all these different enterprise solutions for their processes. So they will also have a need to understand the customer context. And they will build agents to do work in those systems. And they need to understand the broader customer context. So making those connections possible, and then also letting you know, Mark, like, hey, this actually happened, or monitoring the behavior of those agents. That's actually like what I will bet is going to be the next layer of innovation for the enterprise, which is already happening like in AI native companies, but less so in the larger enterprise companies. That will happen next year.
So we have our agent that monitors our financial data, talking to our agent that monitors customer behavior, and they together are trying to inform us about actions, strategies, direction, investments, something like that.
Yeah, And maybe like now I'm hearing you play it back. Like that's a prediction for 27. I think the first thing we'll see is like the different software platforms, like the larger platforms, the systems of records, which I mean, you have a journey and experience system like TheyDo, which is another system of record. They will have agents inside those systems and they will connect to more of a generic layer. I think that's the first step. Like having through like agentic workflows like you described, that's starting up to be possible. But I'm not seeing that materialize fast enough in the enterprise to be like, okay, we build a system and now it runs itself. Like that's the vision and everyone's buying into the vision. But materializing that in the next year, I think is too fast.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll get back to this hopefully next year.
I hope I'm wrong though.
And that it goes faster. Yeah, it would be interesting to see. What is the other big shift, opportunity, challenge we should be paying attention to in 2026?
So people are scared that AI is coming for our jobs, right? And in a lot of business lines, especially in customer service or like lower entry level sales jobs, like that is happening right now. But I'm not so sure. Like on the short term, yes, it will replace jobs easily. But I'm not so sure if it will actually like continue the trend of like cutting our workforce, doing more with less. Like that's the general trend. But what does it create? Like a much larger pool of people that are unemployed. I actually believe like the inverse will be true. Like there's so much innovation coming and there's going to be a lot of new types of jobs coming. And the next year we'll see that shift, right? Now it's like efficient. AI can do everything. Like we need to remove people. We're going to do massive layoffs. AI will take our jobs. And then realizing, oh, it wasn't so smart. We need to backtrack that and put a lot of people back into jobs. But there is a level of efficiency that we have now reached with AI. And the first step is that we started to lay off people. The second step is, oh, hang on, we actually can use people, but for different things. So my prediction for 2026 is that we'll see that stabilize. But what we're going to see is a whole new set of roles that weren't even considered to be possible this year and the last year.
I'll do some predictions. What kind of roles will we see?
Ooh. So one is that who's going to monitor all these agents? Who's going to manage them? So we're going to see some blending of roles. Like if you think about a customer service team, what about a CX engineer that deploys all these agentic workflows, connects them to the different systems, monitors them, runs evals, literally inspecting all their like actions and behaviors with customer interactions, and then make sure that that is coming. Like that's like I've been talking about CX engineer for quite a while, but this is actually what we'll see emerge because that wasn't a need. Is not necessarily an engineer from the EPD organization or the IT teams, but is actually like someone who does understand customer service and is able to run half a human, half an AI team, and is able to coach both. It's a new role. It's a new type of discipline. You need to be engineering minded, but you also need to understand like what great customer service looks like. So that will be an example of a role that I would imagine starts to emerge.
CX engineer with a partially AI agents workforce and a partially human workforce. And coordinating. Okay.
Engineer. Yeah, and building the systems to coordinate that, right? Yeah. I mean, I had on my podcast, I had a person called Ain Chisti from, I forgot the name of the company. We should check it out. They have built an AI system that based on your personality type and everything we know about you, routes you to the right agent or the right AI or the right chat. Mm-hmm. And basically, because of the query you have and the personality type you have, they do the matching, which has all these benefits you can imagine. So fascinating, right? They've done it for like 15 years. Those tools are going to be like exploding in the coming years. And the CX engineer is building the systems and managing the systems to scale.
Okay. So to summarize these two, we are going to see more innovation. Instead of just focusing on more efficiency, we are going to see new roles like a CX engineer. What's one specific prediction you want to do with regards to journey management?
I will predict that it will grow twice as fast as it did this year. Because like there's real
what's the
momentum.
metric?
And that's hard to say. Like obviously I can only look at the data from my end. But what I'm seeing is like if I analyze the calls that we're getting inbound, so no prior relation, no one is reaching out to you, and people just take interest, right? Of course, like they've heard of journey management, and they hear you talk or me talk, whatever. Like there's always something that creates like this desire to action. Okay. But all the discussions are about, okay, scaling this up, solving business problems, building an ROI case for it, implementing it at scale. Like everyone is prepared. 2 years ago, I was explaining a lot what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So my prediction is like that momentum will accelerate. But I'll give you maybe another one that we can actually like fact check is that journey management is just a term, right? Journey mapping is just a term, but like being customer centric, that's what it's all about. So the flexibility, because of AI being able to handle so much more data than a team of humans could potentially do before, will create much more of a fluid system than it is a rigorous approach on like the triple diamond, right? You have to do problem discovery, solution delivery, and follow the process. Like in many organizations, that is already pretty messy. And it's okay that is messy. But if we can build a shared context, and you call it journey management, I call it customer centricity, you call it the journey atlas, I call it my data model, all of those should be true to really like put the customer context and then build the business around that. So much more fluidity because AI can handle all the data, and we don't need to rely on humans for all the structuring and the managing of the specifics.
How will we know that we're there? Like, what's the question I'll ask you next year to check whether or not this has happened?
How many annual statements are mentioning this as a strategic priority?
And this, to be specific, is?
Yeah, we should see the language. Like I said, it will be much more fluid, right? But in terms of like AI transformation and customer centricity, there are going to be mentions around building an efficient organization towards this. There's going to be mentions about implementing an AI-based context for delivering on our customer strategy or customer obsession strategy, right? Customer obsession is one of the pillars that a lot of those companies have in their strategy. So I would like to see some language around it. As you can hear, like I haven't thought through like what the actual word should be, but like let's see if we can analyze, like, I don't know, take 100 random from the Fortune 1000 and see if there's going to be like some momentum on this.
I remember that back in the days, we had a small initiative called the Journey Management Index. Maybe we should brush that off and give it a new shot. Who knows?
Nice. Yeah, maybe if you can collect all the data from like, I don't know,
already,
Fortune 500.
Already on it, man.
Okay,
cool.
Great.
Jochem, almost there. You've been quite prolific last year, also hosting a podcast, which I highly recommend, and the links will be in the show notes. If people want to follow you or reach out or ask you annoying questions about journey management, where would you direct them?
So, annoying questions on journey management, I'll direct them to you. No, I'm kidding. I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, that's the easiest place to find me. First name, last name, and happy to take all the questions, including the annoying ones.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Jochem, again, for continuing this tradition of making predictions in the new year. Hopefully, we'll continue doing that for a long. Thanks again for coming on. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. This was awesome. And see you next year.
All right. This conversation left me thinking a lot about Jochem's suggestion to look closely at our company's annual reports. Are we seeing language about customer obsession and strategic priorities there? Or is there still a gap that we need to bridge? It reinforces that our work in service design isn't just about the craft. It's about connecting that craft to the $10 million problems our leaders are trying to solve. I want to thank Jochem for his honesty, his partnership, and for continuing our New Year's tradition of accountability. Now, I have a question for you. if you had to make one prediction for our industry in 2026, what would that be? Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, you can do me one big favor. Click the like button on this video and leave a short comment if you haven't done so already. Not to feed the algorithms, but to let me know whether or not we are on the right track by addressing topics like this. Finally, before we part ways, please take a moment to reflect and celebrate that by joining us today, you've directed your attention towards learning and growing as a professional. So, from everyone who you are going to impact through your work, thank you for taking the time and making the commitment. My name is Mark Fontijn, and I look forward to having you with us again for a new conversation on the Service Design Show. Take care and see you soon.